In this episode, we are going to talk about my Felicity Socks that I finished, my Ember shawl, the pair of socks that I'm knitting for my husband, wrist warmers that I am re-knitting, a sleeveless jacket that I'm attempting to knit, a new blanket project, and a little swatch that did not work out as planned. So let's get started. Good day everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Mariette, also known as the Boervrou, and this is episode 34 of the Crafty Stitches Podcast. Today is the 5th of April 2023 and I'm coming to you from South Africa. I brought myself some coffee and I have a small amount of time to record this podcast, so I'm hoping that it all goes well and I can get through the content in one go. Let's see if I can get that right. Alright, so I have lots to talk about, some new projects, some projects that you've already seen. So let's just first talk about what I'm wearing. This is the Ranunculus. I have worn it on the podcast quite a few times. I really love it. I really do wear my knits. So this is the second Ranunculus that I've made, and it was knit in the South African hand-dyed cotton yarn from Moya. It's 100% cotton double knit yarn, and this is the colorway Amethyst. And I am so glad that I'm wearing this for this episode because I will be talking about Ranunculus make along in the news section of the podcast, coming very soon. My project pages are all linked down below. If you have any questions or want to have a look at any of the projects, I try to keep my Ravelry Project pages up to date as good as I can. If you need any additional information, you're more than welcome to send me a message, leave it in the comments down below, send me an email, whatever you would like, and I will try and answer that if I do have the answer for you. Right, so let's start with what is finished, my finished projects. Right, so in this episode I have finished the pair of Felicity Socks, which is my own pattern that was just released on the 31st of March 2023. In the previous episode, one of the socks was already finished, and it was this one, and I finished the second sock of the pair. So the whole pair of socks is finished, and as I said, the pattern is released on Ravelry and on my website. These were knit as all my other patterns, sock patterns. It is knit toe up with my heel flap and gusset construction, as you can see there. And yeah, this was a lot of fun to knit. I really enjoy it. I'm a little bit obsessed with this stitch pattern. You might see that in another project. But anyway, so the yarns that I used is this Knotty Habit Kaiso base yarn, which is a 75% superwash merino wool and a 25% nylon blend. It's got 366 meters on 100 grams, and this was the Sock Club yarn in the colorway Elizabeth. And I got this yarn as a gift from a podcaster friend, and I could not resist to cast them on. It just came at the right time. So it was a birthday gift and I couldn't resist. I cast on the pair of socks and I knitted the pair. So I did update my Ravelry page with the amount of yarns that I used for this project. I knit the socks on 2.25mm needles, and I knitted the second size, the 60 stitch size for me in this yarn. Alright, what else was there that I can say about the socks? I think that is everything. And yeah, they are, I just want to wear them. I'm so glad that they are done. And now that I've shown them on the podcast, I can actually wear them. So tomorrow they're going on my feet. Right. That is the only finished project that I have for this episode. So let's move over to see what is on my needles or on my hook and have a little chat about all of my works in progress. My first work in progress is my Ember shawl. I got the pattern from Expression Fiber Arts, and it was designed by Jane Vanzelis for Expression Fiber Arts. So this one has grown quite a bit since I have shown it on the podcast before. I am crocheting it with the recommended hook size, which is a 4mm hook, and it's grown quite a bit. I do battle a little bit with this colors of the shawl, so I am trying my best. But this is what it looks like at the moment. And in the previous episode I was at the little stitch marker or progress keeper there from Annegret from Pincushion Crafts. I'll just show you a bit nearer. I hope that's focus. Beautiful birdie that I could not resist. But yes, the shawl has grown quite a bit. Let me now see. I was still in the blue and I was thinking I'm going to run out of yarn, and I did. I lost that yarn chicken. But I was expecting that, and because I lost at yarn chicken with my first color, I might run out of yarn on my second color, because now I've used more yarn to finish off the rows that I should have done in the first color. So I might run out of the second color as well, but I think I might have enough on the third color to finish the shawl, and if I don't, I'll just add a fourth color. I will see what I will do. But anyway, so in the meantime I have blocked the top part of the shawl because I wanted to see if there's any bleeding of this yarn, and then I just did the last row with my second color, and I did the transition band, I would say, in one color. So I kept to the exact written instructions, but I just crocheted it in one color. So instead of crocheting the row and stopping in one color and starting at the front again and crochet the second row, I just turned and crocheted the 4 rows of transition in one color. I am loving this part of the shawl. I enjoyed crocheting this, but this is, I'm enjoying it a lot. So let me see. The yarn. I'm using Miss Lamotte singles for this project, which is 100% superwash merino wool. It's got 360 meters on 100 grams. My darker color, this one, is called Midnight, and this green aqua, not green, color is called Aqua Mist. Right. This is going to be beautiful and nice and snuggly to wear. I cannot wait. I really enjoyed the process of blocking the shawl, because I was wondering in my previous episode if I ever blocked a crochet shawl, And then I was wondering, have I ever crocheted a shawl? And the answer is yes, but I have not finished it because I ran out of yarn. I was crocheting a shawl and ran out of yarn, and then decided to do something else entirely with the yarn, so I ripped it out. So this was my first experience with blocking merino crochet yarn which was crocheted up, and it's quite satisfying. But what I wanted to say as well about the blocking is that in the pattern there is a schematic of how you should block the shawl and which points you should pin out. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But in the meantime, I'm just enjoying crocheting on the shawl. I've put in quite a lot of time into it this past 2 weeks, and I'm really enjoying it. It is more or less my focus project for the past, for now, basically. Right, that is the shawl. I think I have 2 or 3 rows left that I need to crochet with this color for this section. Oh, let me move the marker before I forget, because then we will not remember where I was in the previous episode. Let me do that. Right, done. And we have a teeny bit of yarn left, as you can see. So I am positive that I'm gonna run out of yarn on this section, but I'm not stressing about it. Someone seeing me wearing the shawl would never know that I actually ran out of yarn and had to start a new yarn on a different section than intended in the pattern, so doesn't bother me at all. Good. My second work in progress is the pair of socks that I'm knitting for my husband. I am using the DB toe up socks pattern, which is a pattern by me for the socks. It is also my toe up, heel flap and gusset construction, and it is my vanilla sock pattern, and this is how far I am at the moment on this sock. In my previous episode I barely started the toe, so I just had that little piece done. That is a little stitch marker from Itsy Klein that was part of the sock club box that I put in here. Let me move it right now while I'm thinking about it. Right, so that is the sock so far, and I'm just loving knitting socks, so there's not much to say about it. I'm enjoying knitting on it. That's just about it. I love this colorway actually. It came out very nicely. I'm not sure that it reminds me of a snowflake, but so the yarn that I'm using for this pair of socks is the Regia 4-ply from Schachenmeier in the color number 07709, and on Arthur Bale's website where I bought this, it said that the colorway name is Snowflake. I'm knitting this pair of socks on 2.25mm circular needles, 9-inch circular needles, and I am knitting the 4th size. That is what I usually knit for my husband, and he is very sock worthy, so I really want to make him another pair of socks. Right, that is the socks. Alright, so my third work in progress is my wrist warmers that I am re-knitting. So this is what the wrist warmer looked like before. This is the one that is still intact. This is actually the inside that I decided I like more than the actual outside that I knitted when I knitted long ago. And this is what it actually looks like on my arm. And the reason why I decided to re-knit them is because even though it is ribbing, these keep falling down like this. Whereas my other ones that does not have patterning on, the vanilla ones that's got shaping, they stay on much better than this pair. So I decided to rip this out because it's just one stitch count from the one side to the other, and to knit it with shaping. But my gauge have changed. So if you have watched the podcast for any amount of time, you would have heard me talk about this, that my gauge have changed because of the way that I hold my needles. Well, that's what I think. So this was knit with 2.5mm needles whenever I knit them, and I am now knitting it on 2.25mm needles, because I did start it with 2.5mm needles, and it was about half a centimeter to 7mm too wide, like this. So that would say more than a centimeter in circumference, and that's not going to work because it needs to be snug fitting on my arm. So I recast it on with 2.25mm needles. I actually knitted to this point on 9-inch circulars, but I changed to magic loop because I can just pull in the cord and I can actually fit it on my arm, which helps quite a bit. So I'm loving how this looks. It is amazing to me how different the yarn looks when it is just vanilla to ribbing. In this vanilla one, I can actually see the beautiful yellow specks on the yarn. I hope that is visible in the camera. But yes, so loving this project. I still have some increasing to do and a little bit of stocking stitch to knit before I can start the ribbing, but I'm loving this project. Let me just get a stitch marker for it. Let's use this beautiful one. This beautiful stitch marker was also made by Annegret from Pincushion Crafts, and I got it as a gift. I'm really enjoying that beautiful marker. Right, so the yarn that I'm using for this is the L sock wool, which is a discontinued yarn. It is a 80% wool, 20% nylon blend, and it has 200 meters on 50 grams. I do not unfortunately have the colorway name or number because the label is completely blank at the back. So that does not help at all. It is a 4-ply sock yarn, and I don't love it for socks. I do have a pair of it in socks in this yarn, but I love this yarn for wrist warmers. I do have another pair and I wear it a lot. So that is my wrist warmers. I'm not using a pattern. I just freestyled this one basically. The previous ones I made, I measured my wrist and where I wanted to fall, the circumference of my arm, and worked out according to that gauge how many rounds I would need to knit and how many stitches I need to increase to, and that type of thing. So I'm using that as a base and fitting it on my arm and see, oh no, I think I must increase a little bit. So I'm just making notes on how much I increased so that I can replicate the second wrist warmer. And I think that is it for the wrist warmers. They are coming along nicely. I really need to finish them because I really need them now, because this is the time of year that I actually use them the most. And I do have some more of this yarn to make a few more pairs of wrist warmers, I think. My fourth work in progress is going to be a sleeveless jacket, if I can get it right. Not that I've been battling with it, it's just I don't have a pattern. So I actually took one of the sleeveless jackets that I own and I put it down on my table and I measured it up, made a drawing, decided what stitch I'm going to use, made a gauge swatch, and I'm now knitting the jacket according to the measurements of the fleece jacket that I have. So I'm hoping that this will work out as I envision it to. It must have a zip, and I think I want pockets, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do the pockets. But I will get to that when I get to that, because I am still on the back panel. So this is my little swatch that I made. The top part here, I decided not to go with the bottom part. I decided to stick with this. And this is what I have so far. So I started at the top here. It will have a collar. So this is just the back panel increasing towards the arms. And as you can see, it is the same type of stitch pattern, but I adapted it a little bit. So I'm loving this. My favorite knitting stitch is seed stitch or moss stitch, and I'm loving this project. It's got a lot of purling because I'm also working flat, as you can see, and it's going to be flat because it's open in the front, but I'm loving this, really loving this. So let me just add a stitch marker to it. This is a stitch marker from Jalene of the Lekker podcast. And if you haven't heard about the Lekker podcast yet, I will link it down below and you can check it out. She's got a beautiful podcast. She is not podcasting at the moment because she's moving, or she did move, but I think she'll be back soon, and there's quite a lot of episodes to keep you company while she's not making podcasts. But anyway, so that'll keep the progress for us. And I am knitting this on 4.5 millimeter needles, and the yarn that I'm using for this is 100% acrylic yarn that I have in my stash, and I wanted to make something with this forever. I actually saw it I don't know how long ago. My friend Leanie from Independence Yarn Craft crocheted a blanket with this yarn, I think. And I think that's where I saw the colorway the first time, and I fell in love with it, and I bought a pack of it. It is the 100% acrylic yarn double knit that you can buy in the supermarket at Checkers. It's called Chick. I do not unfortunately have a label for it, but this is what the colorway looks like in a yarn cake. And I've got a full pack of this yarn. I did start another project with it, but that part I will rip out. So I think I've got all of the yarn still. So I'm loving this and I'm very excited about it. I am still 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I'm about 18 rows away from the underarms. Then I'm gonna pick up for the fronts and knit that. But I will keep you posted on this project. I'm really enjoying it a lot. And yes, sleeveless jacket in the making. Right. Then I have started a blanket. But this is quite a long story, I think. But anyway, for this I do have a yarn label. But I cannot remember when this yarn was very popular. It's quite a few years ago. I went into the wool shop in Krugersdorp, near Kaya Bazaar, and I saw this colorway and I fell in love with it. And I bought a few balls. I asked the lady how much I would need for a scarf. I bought a few balls, went home, knitted the scarf, ran out of yarn. Didn't know anything about gauge swatching anyway. Ran out of yarn, went back, couldn't find any more. And she told me, no, this colorway is unfortunately finished and discontinued. So I was very sad, went home, sew up the ends of the scarf and made an infinity scarf and wore it lots of times. And about 4 or 5 years after that, came into the shop one day and this colorway was back in stock. And I could not resist. I bought 3 packs of it. So I actually measured, so I'm not sure where the extra 9 grams went to, but I have 1,491 grams of this yarn. And when I was unpacking all of my yarn, I found this yarn again. And I am still in love with the colorway. Might not be so in love with the feel of it, but I still love the colorway. And I decided I'm going to do something with this yarn. And I went through a whole process of things that I've done and think that I want to do and so forth and so forth. I was going to knit a jacket with it, but I'm not doing that. I'm now knitting a blanket. So I've made a little video so far of what I'm doing and how I worked out how many stitches I would need and all of those things, and I might make a separate video of that or pop it into another video, but I will keep you posted. So it is 100% polyester yarn. This is the yarn label. The label does not say how many meters is on the little ball, but anyway, that is all of the information. And this is the yarn or the blanket. I think lots of people are gonna cringe at this moment, but I'm loving it. So I do have the yarn, I'm loving the project, so if it brings me joy, I'm doing it. So that's your ticket. If you have some acrylic or polyester or whatever lying around and you are thinking, should I use this yarn? If it brings you joy, enjoy it. It's yours. And it's your knitting journey. So this is obviously my colors. I love the purple and the blue and the specks of black. So it is scrunched up on quite a short cord. It is knit on 5mm needles, and I'm actually using at this moment my swivel cord for it, and it works very nice for this project because it's quite big stitches. And I think this is my second ball, and this is what I have left at the moment. So if I remember correctly, this blanket should be more or less 1 meter in width. And I'm making it to drape at the end of the bed, at the foot of the bed. But I have so much yarn that it might be enough to actually sleep under it as well, if I really want to. But yes, I'm loving this project. I'm loving this yarn, love the colors. And it's so easy. I'm just knitting it, it's just garter stitch. But because I am knitting it Is that lengthwise? I think so. I am doing I-cords on the sides, even though you wouldn't see it, just for the structure to try and keep the blanket a little bit together. But yes, I will keep you posted on this project. Let me add a progress keeper to it as well. What will we use? Let's take one of these. Where is my front? This is the front. Right. And that is a stitch marker by Gertruida from Itsy Klein. That will keep the progress of this project. Right. Then, my last thing that I have to show is a little swatch. I actually swatched for the Bella blouse that I was talking about, but the fabric is too open for my liking, so I'm going to redo that. This is what it looks like. It is just a 75% superwash wool and 25% nylon blend yarn. It is undyed and it is washed and bloomed. And I knitted this swatch in the round. And I washed and blocked it again, and it's just too open for me. I did it with a 3.5mm needle, but I think I'm going to go down to a 3mm and swatch with that. The stitch count is off, and I know it's going to be off because this has 66 meters more yardage 66 meters more yarn per 100 grams than the intended yarn for the pattern. So if I get a fabric that I like, I might do the math and do the pattern in that gauge. We shall see. But for this moment, I'm not happy with this, so I will have to redo it. But I did put some time into it, so I just wanted to show it on the podcast. Nice and big swatch to try and see if I can actually get the same stitches on my swatch and my project. Right, so that is all of my projects. Then I still do have the plan of making the stone crop cardie, but I have not started it yet because of time and because I still need to dye the yarn. I've made the hanks, I got the dye, I'm ready, but I just could not get enough time yet to actually go and dye the yarn. It's coming. Alright, so that is all of the projects that I've been working on and all of my plans that I have so far. I don't think there is anything else. So let's move over to find out what's been happening. Last week's video was part 2 of the mini series that I put together of my tips for beginner sock knitters, and I will link it for you up here and down below if you maybe missed that and if you are interested. The second thing is that the Crafty Stitches craft night for April will be on Friday the 21st of April on Google Meet at 6 p.m. South African Standard Time. You can DM me on Instagram or send me a message on Facebook or email for the details. So you can just contact me and I will send that link to you. I hope that you will be able to come and join us. It is a lot of fun where we just sit and knit and crochet and chat. Very informal, and you are very welcome. The third thing that I am very excited about, and that is why I'm so glad that I'm wearing my Ranunculus today, is that my friend Leanie from Independence Yarn Craft and I are hosting another Ranunculus knit along. So last year in November we did a Ranunculus knit along, and she suggested the other day that we must do this again because she needs a winter ranunculus. And I was so glad that she suggested that, because I was wanting to suggest it because I also want a winter ranunculus, one with long sleeves. So we decided to host it for the month of May. You can send me or Leanie a DM on Instagram and we will add you to the group in the beginning of May. We will again do a Instagram group for the make-along, and we will have 3 meetups for this make-along. We tried various different times to try and accommodate as much people as we can, and I will put those dates and times up on the screen. We are very excited. Leanie has got all of her yarn ready. I know what I want to use, so I'm going to try and get that just before the make-along starts, because if I perhaps run out of yarn, then I have a chance to get the same dye lot. Right, the last thing that I want to share is that the Felicity sock pattern is out there in the world. It was released on the 31st of March. So it is available on Ravelry and in my website. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that supported me by buying this pattern. I really, really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. So this is the socks. Just giving you another little quick sneak peek. I did make a video on all of the details for these socks and for the sock pattern, so you can check that out if you're interested. I will also link it up here and down below for you. Right, the last thing for this podcast, and I have to wrap it up, is my podcast recommendations. My first podcast recommendation is Ali in sweatpants. Ali is from Southern California and she knits beautiful items. I will link her down below and you can go check out her channel. The second podcast recommendation for this episode is Sari Nordland. She lives in Finland. She's a knitwear designer. I've seen heaps of her patterns. I did not know that she has a podcast until somebody mentioned it. I didn't think to go look for it, but somebody mentioned it and I went and had a look, and she's got beautiful, beautiful patterns. So I will also link her down below for you and you can go check that out. If you made it this far into the podcast, I just want to say thank you so much. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. If you are new, I hope that you enjoyed this episode and you will consider subscribing and sticking around. So that is it from me. Thank you so much. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you would like to see any more of my content. And I will see you in the next one. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.